Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Alexis Neely, and I am just so thrilled to be here with you today to guide you to discover why estate planning is the surprisingly perfect practice area for lawyers who want great income, consistent cash flow, and control over your schedule while feeling absolutely fulfilled by the use of your law degree. And I want to just start by thanking the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division for having us here today, and to all of you for showing up. This has been one of the events that's gotten the highest registration. So there's just so much demand and so many questions that have come in ahead of time from those of you who are seeing the possibility here. So congratulations on seeing this possibility. And what I would love to start by doing is just finding out who you are. And so in your control panel, you'll see a little orange arrow there. Just pull that out and locate the question box. And in that question box, if you could just type in where you're calling in from and what you would most like to discover, like if you left today's training with this question answered, you would feel that you got what you came for. So let me know what that is, and that way I can make sure that we're communicating, that you can see me and hear me, and that everything is working perfectly. And Tracy, maybe if I could make one request, I have another login under Alexis Neely, and if you can also make that one an organizer, then I'll be able to see those answers as they come in without, there we go. Great. Okay, good. So I see, let me just mute that. Great. Okay, so many of you here from really all over the United States. And great. Okay, good. Well, and we're going to be answering a lot of these questions today. What is the best practice for business development and attracting new clients? Best way to get quality clients and work on more quality versus quantity? How difficult is it to transition from litigation to transactions? What does the future hold for estate planning practitioners with the advent of digital presence and online services? How do I get started? Great. So many questions. I won't be able to speak to all of them, but please do keep them coming. And we are going to give you a way to get all of your questions answered. We only have an hour today, 55 minutes at this point. And so while we won't be able to get to everybody's questions, I will answer as many as I possibly can. And when we end today, we're also giving you a free resource that you're all going to want to get. And when you receive that free resource, you'll also have a way to have follow-up trainings with us to make sure that you do get all of your questions answered. Because it's critical. We are in a time when being a lawyer in this market is challenging. Many of you are experiencing that. It's not like it was when I graduated from law school back in 1999, when there was like a glut of jobs. Today, we can see that the competition out there is stiff. 40,000 new lawyers per year entering the market, and maybe you're already seeing that there is a race to the bottom mentality where lawyers are feeling as if you need to charge smaller and smaller fees and work harder and harder just to compete with everybody else that is coming into the market. And you're seeing the risk of being replaced by automated services, by artificial intelligence. I was just reading an article the other day, I think by, maybe it was Mark Cuban, maybe it was somebody else, I can't recall right now, but they said that within 20 years, just 20 years, an incredibly short amount of time. I've almost been in practice myself now 20 years. I can't believe how fast it goes. The legal industry will be replaced by artificial intelligence. Now, I don't believe that that's entirely true because there are ways that you can practice that make you irreplaceable. But we have to discover what those are. And that's really what we're talking about today. So I'm wondering if you have seen this. Have you seen this risk of being replaced by automated services? Have you seen this race to the bottom mentality? Are you dealing with this in your own practice and in your own life? Are you trying to charge as little as you possibly can to get those clients, or feeling like you need to? And are you seeing more and more clients who are hiring the online services? You know, we've got all of these online services now that are holding themselves out as being able to serve clients as well as you can. And does that feel scary to you, especially when I talk about the idea of getting into estate planning, which you might think with, you know, all of these services that have this great branding and all of these marketing dollars to put behind them, that, well, you can't compete with that. You can't compete with a LegalZoom or Susie Orman or the gift of GYST, which is stands for Get Your Shit Together. And that's some great branding right there. And now people are thinking, well, I could just do my estate planning online. Okay? So, yeah, it can be scary. And here's the good news for you. The good news for you, I actually love all of these services, because what they're doing is they are educating the marketplace that they actually need legal support. And I believe many of these services are changing people's perceptions of lawyers, very much in alignment with what my company is doing at New Law Business Model. Today, if somebody says to you, you don't seem like a lawyer, that's a great compliment. And that's a compliment I want to help you get again and again and again. And so these services, if you know how to work with them and leverage them to your benefit, you don't have to worry about them at all. They're not going to put you out of business. Instead, what they're going to do is increase the value of your services when you understand how to differentiate yourself in the marketplace, how to charge for your services, and how to create something that is not just a transaction, right? So even though we're talking about estate planning, which you might think of as a transactional practice area, what we're talking about is doing estate planning in an entirely new way, where it's not transactional. It is based in relationship. It is based in an experience and a service that ultimately can never be replicated or replaced by a lawyer, by a robot. Okay, and so when you practice in the way that we teach, we call it the New Law Business Model way, your law degree is a hugely valuable asset. And so while some of you might now be considering, even though you're young lawyers and just starting out, you might be considering leaving the law or going into a different kind of business. I know I was. Just 3 years out of law school, I guess 4 years, because I had spent a year clerking on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. I graduated from Georgetown in 1999, clerked on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals for a year, and then started at Munger, Tolles and Olson in 2000. And 3 years in, I was thinking I might need to leave the law. I can't do practice in this way. And I'll share with you more about my story and what happened after that in just a little while. But what I want to say to you is, don't do it. Not yet. Do not give up on the law yet. Because when you practice the New Law Business Model way, which is what I'm sharing with you today, your law degree is the best asset that you have for yourself and for the people that you love. You know, I have another business in which I serve purpose-driven entrepreneurs. They don't have law degrees. And they are at a significant disadvantage in their lives and in their businesses because they don't. You've got one of the most valuable assets on the planet when you know how to use it in the right way. You can absolutely be a lawyer and love your life and your law practice, and your law degree can provide steady, predictable cash flow that you can count on while you are absolutely fulfilled by the impact that you're making when you understand how to show up in your community in the way that we teach. Now, I got to tell you, it's going to be different than what you've learned. It's going to be different. Nobody taught us this. Nobody taught it to me. Nobody taught it to you. I had to go out and reinvent the wheel, but I did it so that I could learn it and then be here to be able to teach it to you. And it's 15 years of a lot of trial and error, figuring out what would work, what wouldn't work, making a lot of mistakes along the way, about $1 million worth of mistakes. But I'm so glad I did it, because ultimately what I see is that being a lawyer and doing it in the way that we teach, you have an actual opportunity to change people's lives for the better. And you get to choose what role you play in your business. Do you want to be more entrepreneurial, focusing on the business, or do you want to be more doing the legal work and working in the business? You get to choose. You get to choose. But you really do have to start by learning the fundamentals and getting clear on the life that you want, the income that you want, how much you want to work, or how little you want to work. And then you get to implement the systems that we teach, and it becomes a true privilege to show up in your community and serve your clients. So if you are considering leaving the law, don't do it yet. Don't give up on your law degree. Instead, you're in the right place to discover how to use estate planning to turn your law degree into the very best asset, and be so glad that you went to law school when you practice in this way. Because when you practice in this way, doing estate planning, the new law business model way, you cannot be replaced by technology. The people in your community want you, they need you, and you will love your law practice. And I can tell you, your services are absolutely needed right now by people you already know. You might be even serving those people in another practice area. So you don't have to give up on the law or your law degree, or even necessarily on the other law practice area that you've already chosen. But you do have to give up on the old way of practicing law. It's not going to serve you. So those of you who are practicing in unsustainable practice areas, or doing law practice in an unsustainable way, one-off transactions that can easily be replaced by the online services, yes, you do need to make a change. And it might be a little bit scary to make that change. But here's what I know when I get afraid in my own business, and yes, I still do get afraid in my own business, because that's part of being a business owner, right? It's always about stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's scary, is that I've recognized that my own fear is a call to innovate. And it's time. It's time for you to innovate. And the best part about it is that when you do, you get to make a huge difference in the world and in your community, for families and or small business owners. People you already know, the 90% of the people that you already know right now, they need you today more than ever. And here's the best part, it's getting better. The silver tsunami is coming, and that's the time when nearly 1/5 of the people are going to be over the age of 65. That includes me, by the way, in 2030, which is not that far off. 1/5 of the people in here are going to be over the age of 65. And that's getting younger and younger, younger and younger. While people are getting more and more willing to grow up around life and death and consider matters of life and death earlier in their lives, okay? For their lives, for their businesses, for their families. And you, when you're practicing in the way that we teach, are going to be in a great position to serve these people in a way that just feels absolutely fulfilling to you, that they love, and allows you to have a life that you love. And now, just to give you a big picture, is that when you are doing it, when you have learned how to practice law in the way that we teach, you can even teach and support other lawyers and get paid to do it. Okay, so if that's something that you've envisioned for your future, the idea of being able to teach other lawyers in the way that I'm doing now, you can do it. And so you got to learn it first. And when you do, there's a huge opportunity for you to step into another level of leadership and support other lawyers who are coming up in the profession, because ultimately we all have to help each other. We all have to help each other. So I just want to share with you a little bit about what kind of lawyers get to practice in this way, what kind of lawyers get to have lives and law practices that they love, so that you can see yourself here. And let me start with Maureen Pritchard. When Maureen came to us, she was the mom of a preschooler. She had never done estate planning before, and she was scared to do it. But she did sense that there was a need for it in her community, because she was a mom, and she knew that she needed to do her own estate planning. And just about 1.5 years after joining us, Maureen has a full, thriving practice and is able to parent her son in the way that feels absolutely great to her. Be involved in his life, be involved in her community, and be the go-to lawyer in her community for families. This is Amy Shao. She just had her first baby. She went out on a maternity leave from her own law practice and is now back serving families in her community with a whole new perspective on doing that as a mom. And I wonder how many of you that are here with us today are parents. How many of you are parents? Okay. And I'll tell you, I went into estate planning because I'm a mom myself. And again, I'll share more with you about my story. And every lawyer that I talked to said, Alexis, you cannot focus your estate planning practice on serving families with young children, which is ultimately what I decided to do after about a year of just struggling, trying to take whatever kind of client would come on the door. I decided to focus. And I decided to focus on serving families with young children. Now, the really cool thing about that is that ended up bringing in a whole wide range. But every lawyer that I talked to said, don't do it. You will starve. Parents do not want to do not want to talk about death. They do not want to spend money on estate planning. And that's a terrible focus. And I said, I disagree. I'm a mom. And I know I would do anything to make sure that my kids would be taken care of in the right way if anything happens to me. And by the way, there's huge holes in the way that most lawyers do planning for parents. And I ended up focusing there, and I built $1 million law practice as a result. I'll be sharing more about all of that with you. Now, do you need to focus on families with young children to have a law practice that you love in the field of estate planning? Absolutely not. This is Bill Kilpatrick. He's in the Destin, Florida area. He came to us about 2 years ago. He had already done some estate planning with another firm, but he wanted to go out on his own. Today, Bill has a thriving practice. He serves mostly the senior market, but in an innovative way, right? That's really what we're talking about here. You cannot do estate planning in the old way that is just focused on documents. Instead, you need to do it with systems, and by creating an experience for your clients, by educating them to make informed, empowered decisions, and by maintaining a relationship with them throughout life that isn't just focused on getting a plan in place, set it and forget it, because we know that that plan is actually going to fail their family. And I'm curious if any of you have experienced that. Have any of you ever done any estate planning yourselves and then found that, I don't know, you put in place a set of documents, you put those set of documents on a shelf and you never looked at them again? What about your parents? When's the last time that they reviewed or updated their estate plan? Were you even brought into the estate planning process for your parents? Because you're the ones that are going to be dealing with it, right? So the typical estate planning experience doesn't work. So Bill creates a new kind of experience for his clients. He's in Destin, Florida. He engages about an average of, let's say, 15 new clients a month at an average fee of, I think he's around $3,300 now. And he's only working in his office 3 to 4 days a week. He has a team that handles most everything for him. And now he's deciding what does he want to do with the rest of his life? Because he's got systems. He's making the income that he needs. He's got a team running things. He's now working only a few days a week in his office. Now what? What a great problem to have, right? So that's Bill. Darlene Morgan, right here in the down bottom right-hand corner, Darlene came to work with me in 2008. She's still with us today as what we call a personal family lawyer. And by the way, if you want to see what kind of estate planning I'm talking about, go to check out personalfamilylawyer.com. That is a forward-facing, client-facing website that we've created to showcase our lawyers and to educate the public, families, and small business owners on why they need to work with a different kind of lawyer, why they need to not just do a set of documents on their own, and why it's worth it to pay for a plan that is actually going to work for their family. So you can check that out there. So Darlene came to us back in 2007, 2008. She wasn't a mom at the time. Since joining us, probably about 2 to 3 years after joining us, she did get pregnant, and she has since then taken 2 full maternity leaves in her practice and grown her practice exponentially. Now she has $1 million practice. She has of-counsel attorneys working with her in her office, and she's able to leverage the resources that we create for her to reach and serve her clients in her community. Let's see, who else? Erich, who's right here, is actually, he was an entertainment lawyer. And he would have to go into his office in New York every day. And today, Erich is living in Connecticut. He only goes into the city a couple of days a week. He still does his entertainment practice, and he's added on estate planning to be a value-added service to his clients, while also finding that he really likes the marketing side of it best. So he'll do the marketing for the estate planning clients and then hand off actually serving the clients to other lawyers in his community. He's more entrepreneurial. So he doesn't love that one-to-one seeing the clients, but he does love the marketing of it, the educating of his community. This is David. He's also highly entrepreneurial. He's also been with us since 2008, and he recently rebranded his law firm to be called the Parents Estate Planning Firm. And he was serving kind of whatever clients he could get back in 2008. Money wasn't so great. He wasn't really loving his law practice, and then learning how to do estate planning the way that we teach. He now loves his law practice. He's got a $1 million plus practice as well. His wife works in his practice. He has a whole team. He is the go-to lawyer for families in the Acton, Massachusetts area. Wendy Temkin was a litigator. And Mark, both of these two, Wendy and Mark, were litigators and no prior experience with estate planning whatsoever. And today, both of them have thriving practices. In fact, Wendy, shortly after learning how to do estate planning the way that we teach it, she was actually shopped, meaning some clients came in and they were shopping her services and comparing them to another attorney in town, deciding who they should hire. And now this other attorney was the attorney who had been, he'd been the mayor. He had been in practice for 40 years. This guy had credibility and reputation, and yet they went with Wendy. They went with Wendy. Why did they go with Wendy? They went with Wendy because of the systems that she had in her practice. She wasn't doing estate planning in a way that just focused on the documents. She was doing estate planning in the way that we teach, which passes on more than just their money. It's not just focused on their money. Estate planning is about so much more than just passing on your client's money. And then with respect to their assets, she has a process in place to make sure that when they become incapacitated or die, their assets won't be lost. Because so often that's what happens. Assets are lost when clients die. So she has systems in place to make sure that doesn't happen. She has ways to talk about that using stories to educate them. And all of this she learned through us. And so what do all of these lawyers have in common? They love their law practices and their lives. They made a choice to invest in learning how to serve families and or small business owners in a new way, and then they took action to actually do it. Now, some of them had already dabbled in wills and trusts. Some of them were brand new to it. Some of them added it on to an existing practice, like Erich. And some of them decided to go all in with it, like David. Here's the thing that they all have in common, most importantly. They made a choice to think about their law practice like a business. Like a business. They began to look at the numbers of their business, and unfortunately, that's not something that we've been taught. I am going to be sharing with you today how you can download our tool to support you to look at the numbers of your business in a way that you have never done before, that will guide you to make wise investments like each of these lawyers did, so that even though it's still scary to invest in your law practice, you're able to do so because you know it's going to pay off. You can actually have that faith and belief in yourself to know, oh yeah, this investment is totally worth it because it's going to pay off. It's going to pay me back, not just once, but for the rest of my life in law practice. And you can see how that actually impacts your bottom line. So they knew what they each needed to do for themselves. How many clients did they need to engage? At what average fee each month? Because when you know that, and then you've got the systems in place to support you to do it, now you've got a business. Now you've got a business where you know for every dollar you invest, $5 is going to come out. Now, isn't that an investment that you would make all day long? Of course it is. But if you didn't know that was going to happen, or you were scared it wouldn't happen, or you were scared that you wouldn't do it, then it becomes a lot harder to invest in the growth of your practice. And so the great thing about estate planning is that these lawyers are charging and receiving anywhere between, on average, $2,500 to $5,000 per estate plan. $2,500 to $5,000 per estate plan. Now, you might immediately be saying, no way, not in my community. Nobody is going to pay that much. And I just want to point to that is your own limited thinking that is keeping you stuck and is based on the old way of practicing law. You are right. Nobody will pay $2,500 to $5,000 for an estate plan that is a documents-only plan that they could get online by going to LegalZoom. So do not create that kind of an estate planning practice. Instead, create an estate planning practice that when your clients leave your office, they say, wow. And that's exactly what each of these lawyers has created. A practice where when their clients leave their office, they say, wow, I feel like a better parent now. Wow, I feel like a better business owner now. Wow, I feel like I just really did the right thing by the people that I love. And not only do they feel that way, but they actually did. They actually did. Okay, so I'm going to share more with you about that. But first, I just want to tell you that you will be getting this gift for being here with us live today. It's our cash flow planning tool, and it is exactly what you need to identify exactly how many clients you need to see each month and what you need to be charging those clients to cover your expenses and hit your personal financial goals. I didn't have anything like this when I created my law practice. So I just kept trying to earn as much as I possibly could, working myself and my team way harder than was necessary because I didn't have clear goals. So I would be in my yoga class 4 times a week, running my numbers in my head, using all of my creative energy to figure out if I could hire someone, if I could make payroll, instead of just getting clear on it, knowing what I could afford based on what it would cost me to deliver my service, knowing what I needed to charge and how many clients I needed to engage, when I could ramp up, right? But I didn't know. Nobody taught me that. The first year I hit $1 million of revenue in my law practice, that was in 2006. I did it because I got really good at sales and marketing of legal services, but I didn't know anything about business when I started my own law firm. And so in 2007, after that $1 million year, I had a $113,000 tax bill that I had not prepared for. I had to take out a loan to pay that tax bill. So that, I told you in the beginning, I made about $1 million worth of mistakes learning how to actually be in business. And this is one of the most important pieces that came out of that learning, and we're giving it to you for being here with us live. So to get the cash flow planning template, I'm going to put a link up on the screen. We're also going to put that in the chat or in the question box. I'm not sure of the best way, but why don't you all just confirm for me that you can see that by typing in the question box. The URL, if you're listening to this on audio, is get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cashflow. get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cashflow. Let's see if I can actually put that in the chat here. Get the cash flow planning tool at, let's see, and I'm just putting this in the chat for you here, get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cashflow. Okay, great. So you all should be able to click on that link, and I'm just going to click on it myself, make sure it works. Yep, you're going to put in your name and email address, okay, on the page that comes up there for you. And let me just, got signed out of our presentation. not good. But I'm going to go ahead and just go there myself and just make sure that you can get there. So you're seeing it on the screen. What you should be seeing on your screen when you go there, you're going to put in your name, your best email address, because we're going to deliver it to your email. Click the green button, send me the free cash flow planning tool. And what you're going to then see on the thank you page as well, so bookmark this page or come back to it after the presentation, is a case study with a lawyer who transitioned into estate planning after making just $40,000 in her first year of practice. She was considering leaving the law, and because she couldn't make enough. She worked in the tech industry and she was making way more in the tech industry, decided to go to law school, got cancer, was a mom, and coming out making only $40,000 a year, that was not sustainable for her. Then ended up working with us, and she went on to be making up to $40,000 a month. So on the thank you page at get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cash flow, you will be able to hear that case study with Amy. And here, how did she do that? How did she do that and make the decision? Is doing this the next, is that the next best step for you? Is making this transition the next best step for you? Okay, so go there, make sure you listen to that after the presentation. So let me just share with you a little bit about me. And let me ask you this. Am I brand new to you? Have you ever learned from me before? For those of you that are here with us live, just go ahead and type that into the question box just so I have a sense of how many of you have already heard of me. And if you have heard of me or learned from me before, what have you heard? What have you learned? That way I can address where you are right now and not repeat anything. Okay, so it does look like for most of you, I'm new to you. That's exciting. And so I'm going to just take, a few minutes to give you the background of who I am and a little bit of my journey along the way, because it's been a pretty, wild and crazy road. And it certainly hasn't been a straight line. And several times I considered leaving the legal industry altogether. I really did. I thought, this at the various times that I did, I thought, it's a lost cause. It's hopeless. It's I'm not actually going to be able to really make the impact in the world that I want to make here. And each time that I considered that and I went into the full consideration of that, even at one point giving everything up and moving to a farm for a year and only doing what I would do for free and filing bankruptcy because I just was done with everything. This was after having built $2 million businesses and ultimately building those businesses without having a cash flow planning tool, just focusing on making as much money as possible, and even going all the way to the depths of that consideration. What I discovered in that year that I spent saying, I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't do for free. I'm not going to do anything that I wouldn't do for free. What I discovered in that time is that the way that I can make the greatest impact is to help to shift the public's perception of lawyers. And in order to do that, I needed to shift my own perception of myself as a lawyer and really come into right alignment with what are we doing here? What are we doing here? It is not just about building $1 million practices, because I got there and that was not it. It was not fulfilling when it was just focused on the money. And what is it that we are really doing here? Okay, because I made it all the way, right? As far as you can go. I built $1 million plus practice in just 3 years. I built a recurring revenue business model for lawyers that has now been successfully used by maybe thousands of lawyers at this point. I wrote a best-selling book on legal planning for families. And all of that after starting my own firm in 2003, just 3 years at the big law firm at Munger, Tolles and Olson. For those of you that know the firm of Munger, Tolles and Olson, it's Charlie Munger's firm, Warren Buffett's right-hand guy. I was a mom at the time. I'm still a mom, but at that time I had a 4-year-old and a newborn. My husband was a stay-at-home dad, and I left that, six-figure paycheck because I knew that I wanted something more meaningful. I wanted something more impactful, and I wasn't going to be able to build it at that big law firm. So I go out on my own, knowing nothing whatsoever about business. I went to law school because I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I didn't want to follow in my dad's footsteps because he didn't make entrepreneurship look very good. He was not the kind of entrepreneur that I wanted to be. Okay? And I had no choice but to make it work. It was sink or swim. And in the beginning, I mostly sunk. But the one thing that I discovered early on is that when I committed to something, everything I needed showed up exactly when I needed it. And I'm sharing that with you because I know that many of you are afraid right now. Many of you are afraid right now. And I want you to know that when you make a commitment, whatever you need will show up. Even if you're not sure where the resources are going to come from, where the time is going to come from, where the money is going to come from, when you make a commitment, it will show up. And that's how it was for me. Within 3 years, I built my tiny solo practice with 2 kids, 2 little kids, and a stay-at-home dad into $1 million plus law business by creating the new law business model that I'm sharing with you here. In my 4th year of practice, I brought in of-counsel attorneys. I trained them on my methods, and then I was only going into the office a couple of days a week, and I used the time that I freed up to write the best-selling book on legal planning for parents, for families. And then I started training other lawyers across the country and educating families and small business owners on how to serve families in this way, okay? And then I sold my law practice and ultimately went on this huge journey of self-discovery, questioning everything about being a lawyer, but came back around and doubled down on how critical this work is to the families in our communities. And today I do still work with a select few clients, mostly business owners, sometimes inheritors. I do that all virtually. And I spend the rest of my time serving you to become the lawyers that you really want to be using the systems that we've created. And so why estate planning? Everyone in your community right now needs it. And they need it the way we teach you how to do it, and they need to be educated by you. Okay? And the thing for you to remember is that every single person that you know right now who is over the age of 18 needs some form of estate planning. They may not know it. They may think that they need, just a will or just a power of attorney, and they may be right. Your job is to educate the people in your community to make informed, empowered decisions for themselves. That's your job. And it is not to educate them that they need an estate plan, but that they need to be willing to face their death. And that by doing so, they will actually have a better life. See, estate planning, when done right, is really the most interesting practice area. You get into the heart of all of the issues that come up in family interactions and dynamics. You actually get to help your clients be better parents, better business owners, and better members of their community. Best of all, from my perspective, is that even when you're doing it in a way that provides a whole experience, it is totally systematizable. So if you've talked to anybody who says, oh, you need to customize every plan in a very specific way, and that makes it, take so long and so hard, and it's not systematizable, they just haven't learned it. They haven't learned how to actually systematize it. I did, and I did it, and I created it. So I just want to touch on some of the misconceptions about estate planning. Some lawyers think, oh, it's too hard to learn. I'm not going to be able to learn it. The truth is that it is one of the easiest practice areas to learn. There's only about 50 to 100, maybe max, that's on the outside questions that people can ask about estate planning. And once they've asked them and you've said, I don't know, let me find out, and that is something important, by the way, that you do have to be willing to not know for a little bit of time, but that's fine. Actually saying, I don't know, let me find out, humanizes you to your clients. It has them trust you more. It's one of the kind of mind twists that we need to learn as lawyers, because I know so many of us don't ever want to say, I don't know. Within 50 questions, you've been asked everything that there is that you wouldn't know. And I've created a system to make it very easy for you to learn the fundamentals that you would need to put in place your own plan and to sit down and counsel clients through their planning. And by the way, if you don't want to draft the documents, we've put in place outsourced systems to draft those documents for you, right? So we've really systematized so much of it so that you get to do the part that you want to do the most, whether it's educating your community and engaging clients, or if you like to draft the documents yourself and do all the administrative work you can. I don't think it's the highest and best use of your time, but you certainly can do that. If you really want to be a one-man show, one-woman show, only work super part-time hours, maybe have one part-time assistant, you can have that practice area. Totally up to you. You get to decide. Some lawyers think that estate planning is boring. It is anything but boring. If it's boring, you're not doing it right. Some people think it's only for old people. I would say the same thing. If you're only doing it for old people, you're not doing it right. Some people say it's just about saving on estate taxes. And that is certainly not the case. 90%, 95%, 99% perhaps now that the estate tax exemption has gone up, of people will never have an estate tax problem. You don't ever have to deal with estate taxes if you don't want to, under today's current estate planning, estate tax environment. And yet 90% of the people that you know need estate planning. Why? To keep their family out of court and out of conflict. So Catherine is asking if I can suggest some good resources to get up to speed for those of us starting a new practice area. Yes, Catherine, we actually have an estate planning boot camp that we created for exactly this reason. And you'll hear details about that when you, after you've gotten on our email list by getting that cash flow planning tool. So go ahead and put in your name and email address and get that cash flow planning tool. Or if you want somebody from my team to follow up with you right away after this call and talk to you about that, you can put your name, your email address, and your phone number right here in the question box, and somebody from my team will follow up with you directly to talk to you about the options for you to get started with our boot camp or one of our other trainings. And then some people are saying people don't want to pay for estate planning. And for those of you that are putting in your name because you want follow-up, please put in both your name, your email address, and your phone number so we know where best to meet, follow up with you, okay? Because we don't have your contact information, so we need your name, your email address, and your phone number, and then we can follow up with you. And maybe what you could do, Brendan, if you're here on the line, for those that are putting in their name, email address, and phone number, if you could message a link to our scheduler so that people could get scheduled with a law business advisor, that could be great, because I see that there's a huge amount of interest from folks too. So for those of you that want to schedule, Brendan is going to put a link where you can schedule proactively instead of waiting for someone to contact you. So if you are finding that people don't want to pay for estate planning, I would suggest to you that it's because you're not talking about it in the right way. You're talking about it in the way that we learned in law school, which is Oh, it's a set of forms and documents. It's a will, it's a trust, it's a healthcare directive. And while that's true, it's so much more than that. And it's actually not something that people can do themselves and make sure it's going to work, right? It's not something that is just a form set of documents that they can get on LegalZoom or frankly even go to a lawyer and get and put on a shelf and say, okay, I'm done with estate planning. I'm going to share some stories about that in a moment. So I know that some questions did come in ahead of time around the ethics of serving your family and friends. I think that there were some lawyers that were concerned about that. Like, what about serving family and friends? Is that okay? And my curiosity for you is whether you're actually doing your friends and family a disservice by not serving them, a disservice by not serving them in the way that we teach. And so I suggest you just go out into your community and ask some curiosity questions. Have you ever done estate planning? If not, why not? If so, what was your experience like? And you're asking them these questions just to gauge what people are thinking about with respect to estate planning in their communities. Okay? You know, what are people thinking about it and in your community? You're not trying to sell them anything. You're just being curious. Okay, you're just being curious. Now, I think that what you're ultimately going to hear is a sad reality of most estate planning lawyers, a sad reality of most estate planning services. And I really beg of you not to provide this reality to your clients. And what you're seeing on the screen here is some images of a family named Crosley, This family was, I guess, started in some ways, right, or made famous by a man named Powell Crosley Jr. You could see by his gravestone that he was born in 1886 and he died in 1961. I'm curious if anybody here on the line has ever heard of Powell Crosley or the Crosley family. Does this name sound familiar to you at all? Some of you. Great. What is your association with Crosley? Are you in Ohio and by the way, it's just a couple of you are saying yes out of the hundreds that are here with us today. This family at one time was extremely well known. Powell Crosley was an inventor of cars, radios, refrigerators, electronics at the time when all of that was first coming alive. So a huge innovator, Powell Crosley. And I would argue that because of the way that his family estate planning was handled is the reason that you don't much hear about the Crosley family already or anymore. And I have a very intimate knowledge of this myself. It's actually part of the reason that I do estate planning the way that I do today and that I created this methodology is that my kid's dad, my husband of 11 years, although we've been in a relationship really 25 years at this point. We met when I was 20, so I guess 23 years. And then ultimately got married, had kids together, got divorced, but still have a very close relationship. And he's actually in Thailand right now with our son. So my kid's dad, his name is Todd, he was adopted by the grandson of Powell Crosley. Okay, so Lou Crosley was my father-in-law. And what I saw as a result of the way the estate planning was done for this family was really one of the first opportunities for me to see how estate planning and how the way estate planning is handled could actually ruin a family. You don't hear about Crosley anything anymore. Maybe you still see the Crosley radios at Costco or something like that. But you certainly don't see Crosley cars. There's no innovation happening in that family. In fact, the entire family, for the most part, has devolved into addiction and infighting. Addiction and infighting. Years in court. And by the time the family assets made their way down to my father-in-law, Lou, there was not very much left. When he died, he was just an ordinary man who came from an extraordinary line of inheritance, but ultimately didn't receive much. Enough to support him, but at the time of his death, he too died with a failed estate plan. Now, I was in law school when that happened. He had spent $3,000 on an estate plan that is very much like the one that every lawyer out there is trained to provide. It was an estate plan that he had created to keep the people he loved, his family, me, his children, out of court and out of conflict with his ex-wife. As I said, I was in law school when he died, so I didn't really know much. But I knew enough to think that when he died, we should have stayed out of court and out of conflict with his ex-wife. That's what he had paid for in his estate plan. And yet, when he died, guess what happened? We were stuck in court, probate court, and dealing with his ex-wife. Why? Because his estate plan that he had spent that $3,000 on had never been updated. His assets weren't owned in the right way. And it wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. Now, I thought for sure this lawyer must have committed malpractice, without question. But it turned out it wasn't malpractice at all. It was common practice. When I went to the big law firm, one of the best law firms in the country, I found out it was the exact same way that we did estate planning. Exact same way we did estate planning. And then when I surveyed the lawyers, I was about to go out on my own, and I surveyed lawyers across the country as part of the estate planning organization that I was part of at the time. I found out they all did it the same way. They all did it the same way. They didn't update their clients' estate plans. They didn't proactively review them. They didn't help their clients pass on more than just their money. They weren't even planning for their clients' minor kids in the right way, and they didn't make sure that their assets weren't lost to the court process or to the State Department of Unclaimed Property if their clients became incapacitated or died. That was not the way that I was willing to do estate planning. And yet, even to this day, it is the way that most lawyers are doing estate planning. So I see that we're getting up to the top of the hour, and I want to make sure that we're really respecting your time. And also that we have time for questions. So I want to start with, I want to make sure, first of all, that for those of you that do want to schedule with one of our law business advisors, that you have the link to that. And I'm wondering, yeah, if we've got the scheduling link to that available, Brendan, for those that want that follow-up. And you know, I want you to begin to look at what differentiates you. How do you become a trusted advisor for clients who cannot be replaced by technology and who is so appreciated that your clients send you gifts and consistent referrals? Because that's what our lawyers experience, the lawyers who learn from us practicing the new law business model way. That's the experience that they have. These are just a few of the experiences you can see. You can go, by the way, to lawbusinessmentors.com/results if you want to see more of the experiences that our lawyers have when working with us. You can listen to some interviews and watch some videos, and you can see on the screen some of the experiences that people have had. Now, I want to tell you that a lot of you have asked me questions like, what is the best document drafting software? And various things like that. And that is all important, and we do guide you to that. It's a different decision for each of you based on what kind of practice do you want. Do you want to be drafting the documents on your own? What kind of system do you have? We guide you to the answers to all of that, but that's not the question to be asking to begin with. The question to be asking to begin with is, what kind of lawyer do you want to be? What kind of lawyer do you want to be? Do you want to be a lawyer who just churns out documents for your clients and doesn't have a real relationship with them? Or do you want to be a lawyer who just talks about relationship but then doesn't fulfill on that? Because I see that all the time too. Or do you want to be the kind of lawyer who your clients absolutely love, who your clients send gifts to, thank you notes, and most importantly, from your perspective, referrals? So I have a lot more slides, but we've only got 3 more minutes of time, so I want to just kind of run through the rest and make sure that you know how to get the follow-up that you desire. You can go to personalfamilylawyer.com to have a sense of, what is this kind of lawyer? Is this the kind of lawyer that I really want to be? We describe it all there from a consumer, a client-facing perspective. And you can watch some of my videos there on the Today Show, Good Morning America. That's all there for you on the personalfamilylawyer.com website. I can tell you the demand is here. We need more lawyers who are willing and want to practice in the way that we teach, not just documents only. Okay? And I want you to ask yourself, how motivated are you to make this the time that you make the decision to have a life and law practice you love? On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you to do what it takes? Because it's not the easiest thing in the world, but once you have done it, everything shifts for you. Everything shifts for you, okay? And I do see, by the way, a lawyer who is saying here that he wants more substance, and he'll be writing to the ABA Young Lawyer Division and asking them not to schedule me in the future because I'm not providing enough substance. So I appreciate that for you letting me know that, Tom. And I love feedback, by the way. So in this last minute that we have together, I would love to give you more substance. I'd love to give you everything, all the details, everything I possibly can right now about how to make this transition. But the reality is that my job on this webinar, as far as I see it, is to motivate you to want to be a different kind of lawyer. Because if you're not motivated to be a different kind of lawyer, I can give you all of the practical tools that there are out there, but you're not going to put them into effect. And the first step is you've got to decide, yes, this is the kind of lawyer I want to be. And not everybody has made that decision for themselves. And Doreen, I'm not selling a program here today. I am giving you a program, though. I do encourage you to, let me just skip to the end here. Please, for free, go get this cash flow planning tool at get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cashflow. It cost me $1 million worth of business mistakes to create this. And I'm giving it to you for free because I want you to be able to make the very best decisions for your life and your law practice. And thanks, Lance. I appreciate that. That's really what this is all about. And if you want to be the kind of lawyer who makes a real difference in your clients' lives, do we have programs to support you? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it doesn't matter if we do, if you don't even know if that's the kind of lawyer you want to be. And if you are ready to invest in growing your practice, regardless of what practice area you're in, and I will tell you that building the kind of practice that I'm talking about, being an estate planning lawyer in the way that I'm teaching does require investment, okay? overtime now, so anybody that needs to go, please do go. But I wanted to show you the kinds of lawyers and the kinds of investments that they're making in their practices, right? So this is Amy Mendoza. She's doing presentations in her community. She was investing in direct mail. Now, at $40,000 a year, it's not worth it for her to do that, to educate her community. But when she can make up to $40,000 or more a month, is it worth it? Absolutely. Laura Meyer today, $1 million law practice, 4 kids. She does work with her husband and is ready to expand to 5 offices throughout California. Now, you don't have to have that kind of a practice. Rebecca Strube works extremely part-time. She's a full-time mom. She meets with clients in a coffee shop, and she's making up to $10,000 a month, pure solo, doing it all on her own, right? So just to show you the kind of choices that you have when you go into this practice area the right way. Jillian, regarding an LLM in estate planning and or tax law, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And Ian, if there's substantive questions that you have that I can answer for you right now, please do ask them. I would love to answer them for you. An LLM in estate planning or tax is not going to make a difference. What you need to learn next is how to counsel your clients and get their plans done in a way that is efficient and effective and helps them to make informed and empowered decisions. Okay, now, will an LLM in tax or estate planning give you more confidence? Maybe. I know plenty of lawyers who have LLMs in estate planning and tax, and they're still not getting clients. It didn't give them any more confidence. It just put them a lot farther in debt without actually being able to serve their clients any better. So, Jillian, I would say no. Put your investment into learning how to engage and serve clients in a new way, practically, not with more theoretical education. Okay. Jennifer, do you need to buy into the personal lawyer model? Tell me more about that. We license and train lawyers once they're trained to do estate planning and or business work in the way that we do. And it is a membership, it's a license, and we have a whole endorsement process. But we can teach you just to do the estate planning side if you want that separate from becoming a personal family lawyer, for sure. Okay? And by the way, those of you that do want to schedule with a law business advisor, you can go to our scheduling tool. It is in the chat. Okay? How do you find clients? You find clients, Sarah, by educating your community. Okay? And there's many ways to educate your community. I personally have found the best way to do it, and using free and low cost to start, right? You want to start free and low cost, is with presentations that educate your community and support them to make informed, empowered decisions, and then to come in and meet with you, where you can take them through a client engagement process and help them to choose their own fee and their plan to work with you. And so that's a whole system that I created in my practice, first for educating my community. And in the beginning, by the way, when I was educating my community, I would get a lot of people coming to me and say, hey, Alexis, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. And then they would go out and hire the lawyer down the street. That was really frustrating. So I restructured my presentation so they did end up hiring me, or they did at least come in to meet with me for an initial consultation. And then I developed a structure for providing that initial consultation in a way that we call a family wealth planning session. And it's part of a client engagement system that allows our clients to actually choose their own fees. That allows their clients to choose their own fees. Ian, there is a software program I would recommend for document production. And we also recommend a back office system, so you don't have to do that drafting on your own. Um, and so yeah, I see that you're saying you don't want to um, focus on document production, but a reality nonetheless. I would recommend that you outsource. Um, and Brendan, if you can just, I note that some people are trying to book sessions and they're all booked. So for all of you that are trying to book sessions and you can't, when you download the cash flow planning tool, feel free to hit reply to the email that you get and ask for a session if you weren't able to schedule one because they're all booked out already. Denise is saying, this sounds like it would fit my style of lawyering. I have a background in nonprofit clinical work. Is that right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, I'll just tell you a story. Great. I love all these questions that are coming in. I'll just tell you the story of a friend of mine, Martha. So at that time in my my own journey, when I was considering giving up on serving lawyers, I moved to Colorado. I was living in California, and I had been doing all this TV, and it was starting to feel really non-impactful. I was starting to do TV where the focus was more about gossiping about celebrities than it was about really helping families. And I was starting to have this just crisis in my own personal life meaning. Like, what am I doing here? Is this really what's important? Yes, I have all this success, but it doesn't feel really successful inside. And so I moved to Colorado. And partially why I moved here is that my best friend, Martha, was graduating from DU, Denver University, and she had me come out and speak to her law school class. And when I came out, there was a house for rent, two houses down from her, half the rent, twice the size, on a lake, and her kids and my kids were best friends. So it seemed like a no-brainer to move out. So I moved out here, and she was just graduating, and she wanted to go into an area of law that would help families, where she would really be able to be an advocate for them. She was considering becoming like a public guardian ad litem. But at the same time, she was getting divorced, and I knew she was going to have to support her family. She was going to have alimony for a little while, but not indefinitely. And I remember saying to her, Martha, how about if you go into estate planning? And she said, no way. I hated that class in law school, and there's no way I'm doing estate planning. And I said, I promise you that doing estate planning is totally different than what you learned in law school. Why don't you try my system? And I wasn't still actively selling my system at that point, though I was continuing to offer it to the lawyers who were already with us. And I said, I promise you, try out the system. I know you're going to love it. I know you're going to love serving clients in this way. She was very reluctant, but she agreed. Within 18 months, Martha had a thriving practice, I think doing about $250,000 a year at that point. Busting her butt for sure. Like, you know, she had to learn a lot in a short period of time. At that time, we didn't have an estate planning boot camp. So she had to travel all around the country to try and figure out how to do the estate planning piece. I was teaching her the marketing and how to engage clients because I didn't have a training on the fundamentals of estate planning. And it was, you know, that part was really stressful for her to really get the fundamentals of like, what is this? What is the difference between a will and a trust? And why would somebody want a trust versus a will and all of that? And she came to me and she said, hey, you really need to create an estate planning boot camp that will train people on the fundamentals because a lot of these CLE courses that I'm taking and that I'm traveling all around for, first of all, I have to travel and leave my home. I have to leave my kids. Second of all, they're starting at a level that is above me. They're assuming that I know basics that I don't actually know. And I certainly don't know them from a client-centered perspective. And so it was as a result of that that I moved beyond just teaching the lawyers how to market and engage clients, market their services and engage clients, to actually learning the fundamentals of how to counsel clients in a new way. And then ultimately to really getting a handle on the business side. Because what I also realized is that, like me, in my practice, nobody ever taught lawyers how to manage the business part of their practices. I didn't even learn that, you know, until I had built $3 million businesses and watched them both, like all three of them, ultimately evaporate because I couldn't figure out this part that I'm sharing with you. Because you can build a $500,000, $1 million practice, but if you don't know how to look at your numbers, how to read your numbers, you will not be able to sustain it. I had to learn that one the hard way. Okay. Gail went to the link for the cash flow tool. No email has been received. Check your spam. It should come within 3 minutes. So if not, do it again. Maybe it got entered in incorrectly. I hope that the recording will include the overtime as well, because I do know we're getting into the juicy stuff here in the questions. So hopefully it will. Do I recommend a fixed fee structure or hourly? I am on a mission to eliminate hourly billing once and for all. We actually have a system. It's called our client engagement system. And it teaches you how to package your legal services and quote your fees in a way that allow your clients to choose their own fee. Hourly has to go. It's not good for you. It's not good for the clients. Yeah, really, really important. So that's our client engagement system. And that's the program. I started offering the client engagement system back in 2006. It was at the end of 2006, the first program I started, because that was the thing that I was doing the best in my practice. Like that's what built my $1 million law practice, was knowing how to engage clients in a completely new way. Fee structure and everything. Yeah, thank you, Denise. Down with hourly billing. So Morgan, you're not getting the cash flow doc either. Go ahead and put your email address here. For those of you who put in your name and email and still haven't gotten it, put in your email address here. And oh, you found it in spam. Great, Gail. And our team will check that for you. Great. And Morgan, I'm curious, do you work for Westlaw? I worked for Westlaw when I was in law school. Aruna, in patent prosecution currently, have you had folks transition from patent prosecution to estate planning? We have had people transition from pretty much every practice area there is into estate planning. Oh no, it's your last name. I love that. Okay, and I see that. Great, so they're wanting us to wrap up. And let me just answer for Ian. If I do not choose to outsource, what is the software you would recommend? We have a few decisions. I coach lawyers into the right decision for them in our programs. So I'd need to talk with you and ask you some questions, or have you go through the training to know what kind of a practice you want and what kind of an investment you want to make. In fact, you'll see a couple of different options in the cash flow planning tool when you download it. So download it and check it out. Great. And Cynthia is directing people to lawbusinessmentors.com/programs. Okay, good. Thanks, Cynthia, for finding that. That was great. I know you guys have a lot more questions. Here's what I would love to do. Go ahead and email us as well if you have a question that wasn't answered at support@newlawbusinessmodel.com. I love that so many of you are committed to serving your clients in a new way, and that you also understand that I can't possibly deliver everything that I know in the past 10 years in just an hour. But I'm hoping that this kicks off the beginning of a long relationship in which we can serve you to have a life and law practice that you love, making a real difference in your community. And my hope is that this cash flow planning tool that we're giving you here will support you to make the investments in your practice that you will need to make the transition into being a lawyer that you love to be and that your clients love. Will help you to make those investments more wisely than I did, and with less fear than it took me. And in a way that will allow you to know that your investments will pay off for life. And ultimately, to me, it's about you deciding, you recognizing that you have the choice to be a different kind of lawyer and to serve families and or small business owners in an entirely new way. And if you do choose to serve families and or small business owners in an entirely new way, my hope is that you will allow us to support you to do that so that you don't need to reinvent the wheel, so that we can get you trained, so you can take all the shortcuts that it cost me a lot of money to learn, and that you can get out there in your community and start making a real impact both now and in the future, regardless of what happens with technology, and in fact, leveraging technology to the highest and best capacity that you can to serve your clients truly deeply. So thank you so much. You can, of course, email us at support@newlawbusinessmodel.com, but most importantly, go to get.newlawbusinessmodel.com/cashflow and get that cash flow planner. Listen to the case study on the thank you page as well, just to have an example of what's possible, and then watch for follow-up emails from us so that you can find out more about how we can support you. All right, thank you so much to the American Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. Absolute pleasure to be here, and I've just really loved how you've supported us and all the lawyers. And I look forward to seeing you all again another time. This is Alexis Neely with New Law Business Model. Bye for now.